Hating Muslims is the great global pandemic of our times, and this one is man-made. Why? Well, in Western Europe and America, society is crumbling. The poor are getting poorer. The rich are in league with government who refuse to tax billionaires. But who do they point the finger at? In Israel, Netanyahu's killing machine moves forward. He wants to build a fortress. He's interested in a greater Israel. He wants to ethnically cleanse Palestinians and deny them their own state. How does he justify this? He points his finger at. In India, Modi is in league with billionaires too. He's creating a fascist state. He wants to justify this. He wants to whip up the masses so they have a scapegoat, so they're not watching him and his nefarious comings and goings. And who is that scapegoat? Western Europe, America. They need oil. They have been extracting oil in colonial fashion from the Middle East for a very long time. To do that, people stand in their way. They need to wipe them out. And who are those people? So if you hate Muslims, you've been had. You've been cheated. The wool has been pulled over your eyes. Why is there Islamophobia? Well, to put it simply, powerful people do not like it known that they're misusing and abusing their power. What is that misuse of power? Well, it's Western foreign policy in the Middle East. It's imperialist control. It's the theft of oil. It's the occupation of land. And this has resulted in different resistance movements, a spectrum of them. If you just look at Palestine, there's a whole spectrum of resistance movements, not just Hamas. And a lot of them are non-violent civil disobedience. However, the West focuses on Hamas, as does the State of Israel. And what they want to say is, well, it's because of them. It's because they're innately bad. They're innately immoral. Why? Because they're Muslim. That's the racism. That's the Islamophobia. And that medieval, irrational, barbaric religion causes people to strap bombs to their chests and be suicide bombers or be rapists or be pedophiles, as if that's somehow a Muslim problem, which is also absurd, or to set up autocratic, theocratic states and to be anti-democracy and anti-liberalism and so forth. Now, none of this is true. None of these things are a Muslim problem. They're a human problem. And the specific types of Islamic resistance movements you see in the Middle East, they're geopolitical, they're modern, they're not medieval. However, it suits the West to blame Islam so they don't have to take responsibility for their own imperialism, and they spend millions promoting Islamophobia. Just like Hindu fundamentalism, Islamic fundamentalism is not about religion. It's about politics. It just uses the codes of religion for its own ends. Why? Well, first you had Western colonial control over what they called the Middle East. Then you had the Anglo-Persian oil company controlling Iran's oil supply. Then you had American control over the Shah of Iran. Three resistance movements emerged. One was anti-colonial nationalist. One was Marxist, socialist, Che Guevara-style guerrilla movement. And one was this deeply conservative, autocratic Islamic theocracy led by the Ayatollah Khomeini. And Khomeini destroyed the other types of movements. He jailed their leaders or he killed them. The West actually preferred this model, which then seemed to catch on because it's so reactionary, because what they really fear is socialism and anti-colonial, straight up anti-colonial resistance. So they encouraged it in other places and befriended them. That's how you eventually got the Taliban, which then ran away from them and became their enemy. 2003, invasion, occupation, and bombing of Iraq results in the formation of ISIS. Again, it's entirely geopolitical. The people who join ISIS are not Islamic scholars. They mostly have very little idea about Islam. They're just using it to pursue their own deranged method of resistance. So don't look for cultural or religious reasons. That's racism. look for politics. Young Hindu nationalists are starting to see Israel as the big brother that they want to be. They admire the westernization, they admire the money, they admire the militarization, and most of all, they admire the ability to carry out a genocide on Muslims in front of the world's eyes. They're starting to change social media handles, saying, I stand with Israel constantly, change to Jewish names, Star of David flags. They're applauding these IDF snuff movies of raping and killing Muslim women that they upload onto YouTube and trying to reciprocate with some of their own. The Israeli ambassador to India said he could form a second IDF out of young Hindus who want to sign up and go and fight in Gaza and the West Bank. This from one of the first countries to recognize Palestine, who was a big friend to the Arab nation in the 50s via the non-aligned movement. But liberalization, capitalism, and fascism have changed all that, with hatred of Muslims overwhelming every other emotion and rational sensibility. And now there are all these joint ventures with agro-tech, aerospace, surface-to-air missiles being bought from Israelis, drones, radar systems, officers in Kashmir being trained in Tel Aviv. And Israelis are not reciprocating the love. They're writing a lot of racist comments in response to all of this big brother idolatry from young Hindu nationalists who don't really care, because Israeli is now what they want to be.